Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us, and so glad that as I am sitting here in the studio, the weather has taken a turn for the better. I think those cold, bitter cold, sub-zero temperatures, I think that cycle has been broken. It was 47 degrees at my house yesterday in the central part of the state, and it looks like it's going to stay fairly warm for the next week or so. So that is a welcome thing in my world. Again, if I was a hardcore ice angler, maybe I wouldn't be quite as happy about it as I am. But I am welcoming the warmer weather. I am welcoming the fact that we're losing a lot of snow. Now, I'm not saying wintertime's over. I'm not saying it's not going to be cold again. I'm not saying we're not going to get more snow again. The biggest snowstorm I can ever remember in my entire life was actually on Easter Sunday. Of course, I don't remember getting snowstorms like that in a long time now. But we're turning that direction. In fact, I had somebody just the other day say, "Hey, I saw my first robin the other day." Well, I don't really consider that to be a real sign of spring because I have seen robins here 12 months a year. Yes, most of them do take off, which makes me think, why do we have the robin as our state bird? Why do we honor and revere a critter that for the most part abandons us when the weather gets bad? Do they deserve it? Does the robin deserve to be our state bird when they're looking at us from Florida over their shoulder all winter long? I say no. So what should be the state bird? Well, I don't know. What about a cardinal? They stick around all winter. What about a blue jay? They stick around all winter. What about a chickadee? What about the lowly, little, cute, friendly chickadee? They're with us all year long. They'll come up and say hi to you when you're sitting in the woods deer hunting and you're quiet. They'll come up and perch on a limb or a branch or even your bow or your gun, and they'll smile at you. Now, you might not know they're smiling, but they are. Why not make a chickadee the state bird? They don't take off. Or what about a turkey? You know, turkeys are native to Michigan. They were wiped out for a while. Now they're back in large numbers. I think it's one of the greatest conservation success stories in recent history. Why not make the eastern turkey the Michigan state bird? But no, we make it the robin. But again, a robin is not a real sign of springtime. You know what is a sign of springtime? A couple of things here. The fact that the maple sap is starting to run. And as soon as we get days above freezing and nights below freezing, people start tapping those maple trees. I'm seeing it now. But what else? What else is a more visible and concrete sign of springtime? Dead skunks in the road. Now, I have not seen one yet. I've got reports. As I was doing a live thing here in the studio before I started the show, I had a couple of people chime in and say, we haven't seen him yet, but we've smelled him. So the fact that skunks are out, that's a sign of spring, right? But what is the ultimate true sign of spring that cannot be argued with? When the red-winged blackbirds come back. I got a pond behind the house, and when I hear that first red-winged blackbird in the springtime, it's like, oh, I have missed that sound. I didn't even know I missed it because they were just gone. But when I hear that first red-winged blackbird, that indeed is a sign of spring. It's going to be a while yet. And if you're listening to me in the UP, you're thinking, Avery, you're jumping the gun here. Do not get thinking that direction because you got a lot more winter ahead of you. And I get it. But I'm ready. I'm ready. Speaking of turkey, and because I am looking forward to turkey season. Now, fortunately, I will be turkey hunting again with my bow. If I was going to be turkey hunting with a shotgun, which is what the vast majority of turkey hunters use, I might be a little bit nervous. Because every year on this show, and you hear on forums and TV shows and radio shows and everything, that the importance of patterning your turkey shotgun. Put a bunch of different loads through that gun to see which gives you the best pattern and the best range and the best shot density, so you know when you put that bead on the head of that long beard and pull the trigger, you can be relatively confident that you're putting a good pattern out there and you're going to make a quick, clean, humane killing shot, which is what all hunters want to do. But if you can't get ammo for that shotgun, how are you going to pattern that shotgun? This year, unless you've got some ammo stored, stashed, you're going to be lucky to find one box of 12 gauge or 20 gauge or whatever it is, let alone several different types of ammo to run through that gun to see what the best pattern is. So when the ammo shortage goes from being something theoretical to something real in that you can't buy handgun ammo to keep your proficiency level up with your self-defense guns, and then you take it to the next step where you can't get ammo to actually hunt with, and thank God it's not deer season right now because there are very few deer rounds out there on the shelves either. Hopefully by fall we're starting to see a little change in that. My first guest this week, in fact, we'll talk about that. His name is Jason Vanderbrink. He's the president of Vista Outdoors. You might say, well, who cares? Vista Outdoors, what is that? Well, Jason is the president of CCI ammo, of Federal ammo, of heavy shot ammo, of Remington ammo, and of Speer ammo. So he has a unique perspective on this. And I first saw a video he did talking about the ammo shortage a few weeks ago, and I thought, he seems like a stand-up guy. And then I had somebody reach out to me and say, hey, he's a Michigan guy. He grew up in Crump. And if you know where Crump is, you're lucky. It's a very, very, very small little burg. He used to work at the ammo counter at Frank's Great Outdoors in Linwood. So this guy he's a Michigan guy. He's got strong Michigan ties. So it makes me even more excited to talk with him and see what's going on there. What else? Next week, I'm excited to announce, next week, back on the air in Flint on WTRX, Sports Extra, 1330 a.m., WTRX was actually the first affiliate radio station I ever had. I was on the air at WMAX in Saginaw, and we started to air the show on WTRX in Flint. It was, at the time, I think, was a sister station of WMAX. They were both sports stations. So that's a huge thing. I mean, it seems appropriate in this, my 40th year of broadcasting, to go back to a station that I really started out the whole Outdoor Magazine radio franchise concept with. The Wisconsin wolf hunt. I want to talk a little bit about this more in depth about the Wisconsin wolf hunt in this week's Ask Avery segment, which is always the last segment of hour number 2. But as we are recording the show, Wisconsin is having a sanctioned wolf hunt. By the time you hear the broadcast version of the show, it'll be wrapping up, and by the time you hear the podcast, it'll probably be over. But how come Wisconsin can have a wolf hunt and Michigan can't have a wolf hunt? Is it because they have more wolves than we do? And the Wisconsin DNR says they have about 1,000 animals. You compare that to Michigan's DNR saying we have about 600 animals. Now, most people will say we have more than 600 wolves, but probably people in Wisconsin would say they have more than 1,000 wolves. So it's not really, in my opinion, it's not the number of wolves. It's the political culture. There was a group, actually out of Texas, called Hunter Nation, if I remember right, that sued the Wisconsin DNR. They said, okay, now that wolves have been delisted, you, Wisconsin, need to have a wolf hunt, and you need to have it immediately. Which ends up being a very, very smart tactic because they found a wolf hunt friendly circuit judge in Wisconsin who ordered the DNR to have an immediate wolf hunt. And because things happened so fast, the antis didn't have time to mobilize their crazy, wacko, crazy anti-this, anti-that, anti-everything that's good in the world, it seems to me. That's why they're having one. Now, they do plan to have one in November as well. So we even though we're not in the Wisconsin wolf hunt, we want to keep a close eye on that. Well, I'm thinking about the antis. I don't get the mindset. I don't understand their mentality. I don't understand why they are just so anti-everything. But please do not fall for the political hype that says the Humane Society is supporting your local animal shelter. They're not. The Humane Society does not run any animal shelters. They do not save puppies. They do not save kittens. That's not what they do. They want you to think they do when they ask you for your money, but that's not what they do. They are a blatant fundraising, lobbying, anti-hunter, anti-meat, anti-pet, anti-farm, anti-fur, everything. Don't fall for it. Take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we will talk with Jason Vanderbrink from all those different ammo companies, and we'll wrap up the hour with Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. That's coming up in hour number 1 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Traverse City on WTCM. That's 580 AM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946 when Roland Boning invented ferrule tight. You know what? 1946 was 75 years ago. Boning is celebrating their 75th anniversary. I think that is really something to be proud of. To be a leader in archery when modern day archery began, and to still be strong and viable and vibrant these days. They continue to innovate. They come up with new products for target archers and bow hunters. Congrats to everybody at Boning on 75 years. Check out the website boning.com, BOHNING.com. I love to celebrate Michigan companies because I'm a Michigan guy. I love basically everything about the outdoors in this state. That's why I was so excited to find out that the president of CCI Ammo, Federal Ammo, Heavy Shot Ammo, Remington Ammo, and Speer Ammo is a Michigan guy. In fact, a buddy of his, Jeremy Kiley, he said grew up with him in Crump, said, you got to get this guy on the show. And when I found that out, I said, I do have to get him on the show. I saw a video that Jason put online several weeks ago talking about the ammo shortage, and I thought, he seems like a stand-up guy. He seems like an interesting guy. And again, when I found out about the Michigan connection, I had to get him on the show. And he has graciously agreed to spend some time with us. Jason, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Mike? Thanks for having me this morning.
Well, listen, it's a real pleasure. The Michigan connection. In fact, you used to work behind the ammo counter at Frank's Great Outdoors in Linwood, even, didn't you?
I did. That was my high school job was at Frank's for several years, and then through college. So I miss the old Michigan connections. Your Jay's Sporting Goods with JJ and Jeff up there, and Glenn Duncan and Charlie Duncan at Duncan's, and the Gorski family. It's an interesting connection.
It is. It's a very, very cool connection. And I'm biased because I'm a Michigan guy, but I feel like we have something special here in our state. And you would have an interesting perspective on this because you see a national picture now. But Michigan is a hotbed for outdoor enthusiasts, for shooters and hunters, aren't we?
Absolutely. No doubt. I mean, I think you're still number 3 in hunting license sales, and November 15th, as you know, is kind of a state holiday up there. So Michigan is a fantastic state for our company and for our country for conservation and outdoors, and it's a wonderful state for the out of doors people who like it.
Jason, how did you get from Crump and Frank's Great Outdoors to being the president now of these huge companies that are really in the mindset, on the mind of a lot of people these days? How did you make this transition? How did you make this journey?
All right, that's an interesting journey, and certainly, as you said, I grew up in Crump with my grandparents. They raised me and my dad. So worked my way. I graduated Pinconning High School in 1995, and I took a 1-year hiatus. I went out to Wyoming to do my freshman year of college in Wyoming, and came back. We have a family farm in Michigan in Crump. Came back and graduated from Saginaw Valley with a bachelor's degree, actually in criminal justice. My dream job was to be a Secret Service agent, and I did a 1-year internship with the Secret Service office in Saginaw, and found out I wasn't really into the Secret Service job, just because it was at a time where inkjet printers were kind of up and coming, and counterfeit money is what the U.S. Secret Service really does most of the time. They don't protect the president or dignitaries most of the time. So I didn't want to be in the office looking at counterfeit money made on inkjet printers in Saginaw. So from that internship, it was a great career because it was eye-opening. And then, I shot sporting clays a lot, was the junior champion of sporting clays in Michigan. And through a connection of Frank's, we had a Remington rep at the time. His name was Jerry Havel. And I still, he runs a grouse camp here in Minnesota now, believe it or not. And he had an opening at Remington, and I put my name in the hat, and God blessed me that I got that job. And from there, I was a Remington rep for 5 years, and then switched to Federal at the time, which was owned by ATK, which was a big aerospace and defense company. And then I moved all over the country with ATK, and then worked my way up within the organization, and went and got my master's degree from Missouri State University in Springfield, Missouri. And I went and got my post-grad degree from University of Oxford in England, and worked my way up through the company, and lo and behold, run American dream. I'm a good picture of the American dream. Started off raised by my grandparents and my dad at a small family farm to running a really cool company today. So that's been a wild ride. It's been 22 years to get here, but certainly blessed every day, and never forget where I came from.
That is a great story. And did you ever dream that your industry that you love so much these days would be looked at the way it is today? I mean, we've got an ammo shortage unlike I can ever remember seeing. You've got some of your customers looking at you saying they're not happy with the way you're doing business. I mean, listen, I've heard stories. We've all heard the rumors, put your tinfoil hat on, all this other stuff. But you're the man in the hot seat. How did we get to this situation? What are the factors that have caused this ammo shortage?
A couple things. It obviously started with the pandemic, so that happened actually about a year ago today, when we started closing down businesses and stuff. We saw an influx of personal defense users. They want some stuff just for personal defense. You had you were at a point in time where social unrest was very rampant. I'm in Minneapolis, so it was very rampant here as well. So that kicked it off, and then obviously, the anti-gun rhetoric, that certainly helps it. The good part of what we're seeing is you have about 8 to 9 million new users now who came into the industry. Some of it is for just recreational shooting. The great thing is license sales, across the country are up about 11%. So people are getting out hunting and rediscovering the outdoors. So when you do all of that, when you put the social unrest with the pandemic, with the new shooters, then you throw in a Remington bankruptcy on top of it. So a large company like Remington wasn't making ammo very much last year. So that puts more burden on the manufacturers that were producing ammo. And it just takes time for us, with Federal, CCI, and Speer. It took us time to get raw materials, to hire enough labor to work. You have to train people, so that takes months. So it was a perfect storm, if you will, between social unrest, new shooters, new hunters, Remington going bankruptcy, and in just an influx that happened relatively fast. No company can react as fast as what we saw. In the previous 3 years, something that we sometimes we don't look at. The previous 3 years was very soft for the ammo industry. There was excess capacity in the world, excess capacity in the United States. So major manufacturers like us, we weren't going to invest in new capacity when you couldn't sell out what you had. So it was certainly, I think I've become maybe a sense of truth is what I want to be known as, of the whole industry, but more or less about our company. We did really well reacting as fast as we could. But for some people to criticize that, why don't you build new factories, or why can't you just make capacity? All of those things take time, and we got to be cautious, and we got to be diligent business people. So we reacted really, really well as fast as we could, and thankfully our workforce has as well. We're in our mission statement every day we walk into work. We're proud to make ammunition in America, and we've hired almost 1,000 people this year. That all takes time, So we've reacted really, really good, but no one in their right mind could have predicted what we've seen, Mike. I've been in this business for 22 years, and it's an anomaly what we're under. I mean, we've never seen demand like this. We've never seen the previous 3 years be as bad as it was. So companies have to take time. We will never sacrifice quality to put more ammunition out into the market, because it takes us 100 years to build our brand. We don't want to ruin that with inferior quality. So when you put all that into the mix, that's kind of the state of the industry that we're in today.
Well, look into your crystal ball. How long is this going to last, this shortage?
We don't know. We're obviously a publicly traded company, and we don't want to speculate, but it's here to stay for a little bit. That's for sure.
Well, 8 million new shooters. That's a good thing, but it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing too. But and I don't want to get real political here, but if you talk about anti-gun threats feeding some of this, I mean, you could look at it and say, hey, that's going to go on for at least the next 4 years.
You can certainly look back historically, and we'll see what Congress is going to do, what the Biden administration is going to do. They haven't really taken on the gun control bills yet. So we're just kind of in a wait and see, and we're going to run our business as we would, which is disciplined and great stewards of capital and great stewards of money. And we'll have to react, accordingly.
How do you make the decision which ammo to make a priority? I mean, is 9 millimeter the priority, or shotgun shells because turkey season's coming up? How do you decide that? Great
question. So we look at historical trends. So the best predictor is what have you done historically? I get asked all the time, why don't you just convert more of your machines from to 9 millimeter, since 9 millimeter is so hot right now. A lot of that you can't. A lot of the machines are dedicated by caliber. Now we have taken previous years as the calibers were switching, we'd take a long-term investment to change, I'll just say, from a 40 Smith & Wesson to a 9 millimeter. We've done that. So, but you got to look at what is, one, in demand. Two, do you feel that you can get the raw materials? Because raw materials is certainly a shortage in the ammo industry, whether it be brass or powder, even resin, as we've seen resin get tough to get. So are you going to have enough raw materials to ramp up a line? Are you going to have enough trained labor to ramp up a line? And then you obviously look at seasonality. Obviously, turkey season is just around the corner and starts in Florida here in a couple weeks, and hopefully we go down there and kill some Osceolas. So then, obviously, you want to make your turkey loads in the winter time.
Jason, listen, so sorry to interrupt, but I do have to take a break here. All right, we're talking with Jason Vanderbrink of Vista Outdoor. VistaOutdoor.com is the website, but it's CCI, Federal, Heavy Shot, Remington, Speer, and he's a Michigan guy. More on this whole ammo situation after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Tawas on WIOS, AM and FM, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC, 660 AM, and north of the bridge in the Sioux on ESPN 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. You know I love that. For more info, check them out online at linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Right now, we're talking about, well, a subject that I've talked about a lot these last few weeks, several weeks now, the ammo shortage. If you've been to your local sporting goods store, you know it's real. It's not a hype. It's not something that, is just made up. It's real. It's hard. It's not impossible, but it's very hard to get ammo right now. Nobody knows that better than Jason Vanderbrink. Jason is the president of CCI Federal Heavy Shot Remington Speer Ammunition. He's a Michigan guy. Jason, I do have to ask you, is Remington making ammo now? Are they back in the production business?
Yes. Thankfully, we got it going. You know, we were down last week because of the unfortunate snow and ice storm they got. But, we're making ammo again. So it's great. Great for the industry, great for our Arkansas friends. And, we're ramping up that plan to hire hundreds of American workers. And that will certainly help the industry as well.
What's the difference between these companies I just mentioned? I mean, you all make ammunition. Is a CCI ammo different than Speer ammo, or is it basically the same, just a different name on it?
No, it's different. So at CCI, we're the world's leader in rimfire ammunition. Under that, we have a brand called Blazer, which is a very good selling 9mm ball round, practice round for us. Speer is the utmost leader in law enforcement. Speer Gold Dot, used by, almost everyone in law enforcement. NYPD, Los Angeles PD, a lot of your big agencies and smaller agencies use Speer Gold Dot. Federal obviously is in everything, right? We do rimfire, we do shot shell, we do rifle, we do pistol. So a leader in most of the categories. And Remington is obviously, a 205-year-old American icon brand. We're very fortunate to acquire that brand out of the bankruptcy proceedings. And we look forward to resurrecting it, from Core-Lock to Golden Saber to Nitro 27 shot shells to the Golden Bullet and rimfire. Everything is different. We're one thing that we do is the brand has to stay true to its DNA. We don't want Federal to become Remington and vice versa. So Core-Lock will always be Remington. It won't be in Federal. In Hydroshock will always be at Federal. It won't be at Remington. And Gold Dot will always be at Speer. So it's nice because we can use our scale and resources on a centralized location, whether it be marketing and sales, but each brand lives and breathes its own DNA, and it needs to stay true to it. So the customer, the end user, if they go and buy CCI rimfire, it is not the same as Federal or Remington. So we are very cautious of collaboration. Well, certainly we collaborate every day on how we make all of our products better, but they have to stand on their own, and that's the way we want. That's what the consumers tell us that they want.
In the past, when there have been ammo shortages, a lot of people would just turn to reloading, making their own ammo. But that's really not an option these days either, because we can't get primers, right? We as consumers.
Yeah, primers is, we make primers in 3 of our factories, and, I think I did a video on primers, and there's no conspiracy on primers. Primers go to feed our internal factories first, and what's left over goes to the commercial reloading market. Obviously, when we're trying to build as much ammo as we can, that hurts the commercial reloading market because we're using the primers internally. So the primer market historically is exactly like the ammo market. When ammunition is flush and it's everywhere, primers are everywhere. So when ammo market is hot, primers are hot. So if I could have one advice to our listeners, listen, when ammo slows down and you see primers everywhere, go buy some primers, because if you keep them dry, they'll last for years. So don't get yourself in this predicament where ammo is hot and primers are hot. Just just do a little proactive buying if you would.
What about ammo itself? How long can I store ammo?
Years and years and years, as long as you keep it dry.
Okay.
That's the key, but it lasts tens of years.
Well, it is certainly an interesting situation. I'm going to ask you one more time. Can you give me a number? Can you give me a timetable on how long this shortage is expected to last?
We can't. We couldn't predict the bottom, and we can't predict the top when it lasts. Mike, I wish I had a crystal ball, because we have thousands and thousands of families require a job every day, and we just don't know. There's too many unknowns in this industry right now.
No, fair enough. I appreciate that. I accept that. Jason Vanderbrink, listen, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Congrats on your success. Good luck weaving your way through the industry as it is today. And again, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Jason Vanderbrink of CCI Federal Heavy Shot, Remington Speer. The Vista Outdoor is kind of the parent company. You can check out their website, vistaoutdoor.com. We've got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, Bill Pyles, my friend Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, we're going hunting there this fall, and I thought we had 2 more openings, but it sounds like we filled them. But I'll still talk with Bill anyway. OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com is the website. And then coming up in our next hour, Mark Romanak, Ian Fitzgerald, and this week's Ask Avery segment, all coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. And you can hear us in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Speedy Blaze. Speedy Blaze is a safe, clean, water-resistant, insect-resistant alternative to firewood. It's made from recycled hardwood, so it's safe to cook over. You can put it in your grill, your bonfire, your fireplace, any place you would use wood. You can use Speedy Blaze. It burns hot, clean, easy to light, and it's made here in Michigan. Check them out online at speedyblaze.com. That's speedyblaze.com. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and head on over to OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com. OhioBowhuntingOutfitters.com is the website of my friend Bill Pyles, obviously of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. I used to hunt a lot with Bill, then kind of got out of deer hunting for a few years, and now that I'm getting back into it, I'm actually going down there this fall, along with a bunch of other Outdoor Magazine radio listeners. And in fact, I thought we had 2 more openings for the trip, and Bill informed me just a couple of minutes ago we've got those filled as well. But I'm still going to bring him on the air anyway. Bill, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you, sir?
I'm doing real good. So we ended up filling that trip up, huh?
Yes, sir. Last night.
Ah, well. That's all right, because
it's all good.
It's all good because actually, you've got openings later in the season. I know you're getting pretty well to being full, but if somebody wanted to come down, you could find room for them, huh?
Most definitely. I have 9 spots left for the archery season.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, we're going to do a couple of shotgun hunts this year also.
Ah, well, listen. Tell us about your operation, because people say I'm thinking about doing an out-of-state hunt, and I think you're a great option because you're physically, geographically close for Michigan hunters. You got some big bucks, and you're a proven operation.
Yeah, I mean this will be our 24th year in operation. We are a fully guided operation, which doesn't mean that we set in the timber with the hunters. Meals, lodging. We take care of everything. We take care of all the details. Pretty much all our hunters do is hunt, and that's it.
Well, and that's why we come down there, right, to hunt. What about, and this is a hard question, but success rate? I mean, if we come down there, it's not like a hunt behind a fence. You're not going to guarantee us a big buck.
I wish I could. But it's just not realistic. We run a 50 I've kept records for the past 15 years. Over those 15 years, we're at a 50% success rate, and we're just shy of we're about a 61% opportunity rate. So the success rate is on the ground taking pictures. I don't consider a miss or a wounded buck, unfortunately, in the success rate. It's opportunity.
You know what? I'd take 50% on a free range hunt. I think that's pretty good.
Most definitely. I think it's a great average, and we're averaging 142 inches on the ground for Pope and Young.
Wow.
So we've got a pretty good average going also.
Do you have a minimum size? If somebody comes down there and shoots a buck that's a little smaller than what you'd like, is there going to be a fine?
We are a 125 minimum operation. We go case by case. Sometimes I enforce it. If somebody comes in and they've killed several 160s, 140s, 150s, and they come here and shoot a 100-incher, I mean, that's, that's going to be a fine. But if a guy comes here and kills a 110-inch and that's the biggest buck he's ever killed, I'm not going to drag that hunter down by, putting a fine on him or letting the camp beat him up. We just don't. Yeah, I mean, if it's the biggest deer he's killed, I'm happy, he's happy, and we've probably got a customer and word of mouth stuff going on. So, yeah.
All bow hunting? Well, you said a couple of shotguns, but you're primarily bow hunting, right?
It's 99% bow hunting. We're gonna try a couple of shotgun hunts this year, and a couple of those hunts might be. We're probably gonna take some does out during shotgun season. So it's a little easier for us to take does out during shotgun season, but we also take some does out in early season for archery.
What counties are you in, Bill?
We're in Licking, Knox, and Coshocton. And there are 3 of the top 6 in the state, and we're right in the corner where the big 4 come together, Licking, Knox, Coshocton, and Muskegon counties. Well,
I was thinking if you wanted to look through some records of where some big bucks come from, I mean, you're in the hot spot right there.
Yes, Licking County is number 1 in the state for Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett, and it went number 5 last year, I do believe, overall in the United States.
Wow.
That's with Buffalo, Brown, Pike, Green. So it's a great county, and Knox is, all 3 of the counties are great counties.
With the interest, with the success rate you guys have had, it's got to be harder and harder to keep control over some of these farms you've been hunting for years.
Yeah, it's just the lease prices are driving everything right now. Luckily, 80% of our farms I've had for over 15 years. Heck, I think I've even got a couple farms that used to hunt several years ago. So it's to hold on to the farms is this time of year is kind of nerve-wracking because they're redoing the contracts with the landowners, and but that's the trick, is holding on to the land.
Well, our hunt in Ohio in October with you is filled, but you still have some openings. If you want to get in touch with Bill, go to the website ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com, but don't waste a lot of time. ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com will put you in touch with Bill. Bill, I look forward to coming down and seeing you again, and you and I will be talking a lot more as the fall gets closer.
Okay, Mike. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bill Pyles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. Again, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Mark Romanak of Fishing 411 joins me. Ian Fitzgerald from MUCC talking about new deer hunting regulations. And this week's Ask Avery segment with details on the Wisconsin wolf hunt. Does that mean that Michigan will get a hunt? Well, we'll find out in hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yiter Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we continue this celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and all things all things biologically sound, biologically necessary, legal, fun, and ordained by God even. How much more authority do you need than that? This is the second hour of the show. The show is actually recorded as a 3-hour show, a 3-hour radio show, by the way. There's a lot of confusion about that these days as to what is a podcast and what is a radio show. Well, if it ends up on your local AM or FM station, it's a radio show. If it's not available as a broadcast form, it's a podcast. I think the best way to listen to Outdoor Magazine, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. For one thing, they get the content of the show before the podcast is uploaded. But if you can't hear all 3 hours, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, the podcast is a great alternative. You can hear it on the website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I put it on my Facebook page as well, Mike Avery Outdoors. It's now on Amazon Music and Audible. I think that's very cool that it's on Audible. I put it on my Avery Outdoors Twitter feed. Although I'll say it again, I don't know anybody who uses Twitter, but it's out there anyway. I put it on LinkedIn. You can find it on iTunes, on Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Radio.com. I even put it up on YouTube. It's not a video version, but it's an audio version on YouTube. I know, it seems kind of crazy. In addition to the radio show, I also produce monthly podcasts for Jay's Sporting Goods, Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, Killer Food Plots, Polarcraft Boats, and Shadowhunter Blinds. In fact, when we get done in the studio here, we're going to record this month's Polarcraft Podcast. Regardless, though, of how you listen to the show or when you listen to the show, I do appreciate the fact that you're hearing my voice. There are a lot of different things you could be watching or listening to or just doing right now. We're busy, right? We got a lot going on. And the fact that you take time out to listen to my show means a lot to me, and I do certainly appreciate it. Speaking of different forms of media, over the years, I've had a chance to work with a lot of very, very talented and interesting people. And I'm thinking right now of Mark Romanak, Mark of Fishing 411. He's been around the outdoor scene for a long, long time. I first met Mark. We were both working in Saginaw. I was at TV5 as a reporter, and he was a naturalist at the Greenpoint Nature Center. And you look at how far he's come now. It's just amazing. And he's gotten there because, for one thing, he's not afraid of hard work, and he's just so darn knowledgeable. And he's able to share that information with others. And I always appreciate the chance to have him on the show and pick his brain a little bit. Mark, it's a pleasure. Welcome back. How are you?
Mike, I am great. I just learned something today about you. I didn't know you were a Twitter hater.
Well, I mean, what good is it? That's the way I look at it.
I can't deny that. I'm with you, my friend. I thought that was pretty hilarious.
It's some people use it, and it was an early form of social media. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not a real fan of social media in general, but it's become such a big part of my business and your business these days that we really can't get away from it anymore.
Well, we are tied to it, and I agree with it. There's no doubt about it. And people can reach us on social media no matter where we're at, no matter what we're doing at any time of the day, and they do. And so it does cut into our personal freedoms a little bit, but we like social media. I just got a kick out of the Twitter thing because I don't see a lot of value in that either.
Oh boy! Hey, and as far as your professional schedule these days, I gotta believe the fact that as of right now we haven't had any of the big outdoor shows. That's got to be hurting your ability to reach out to people.
It is. There's no question. Losing the consumer sports shows is kind of a big deal for us. We make a significant amount of money speaking. We have a big display at the various sports shows that people can come and talk personal to us, shake our hands, talk fishing, and all that went away, literally with COVID-19. So we're definitely trying to find things to keep ourselves busy at this time of year. We would typically be at a sports show. But that doesn't mean we can't stay busy. Like, for example, today we just left Trailmaster. We picked up our trailers for our new boats, our new Starcrafts for this year. And so we're on our way to drop those off at our dealership, Lakeside Motorsports down in Mecosta. So we're getting things done, but we're not interfacing with people as much as we would typically be doing so at this time of year.
Oh, Lakeside. They're actually an Angler Quest dealer too. I'm going to be over there in at the end of March myself. Now, why not just get your trailer along with your boat through Lakeside?
Well, it's weird because most, like pontoons, when a person orders a pontoon, it probably doesn't come with a trailer. They probably order a trailer separately. But most boats come with, most V-hulls come with a trailer as part of the package. But for us, working with StarCraft, StarCraft provides our boat, Trailmaster provides our trailers, and Lakeside provides the rigging. So it's kind of a 1, 2, 3 punch, if you will, and it works out very well for us. Gotcha.
And what are you going to be running this year, Mark?
Same boats, StarCraft STX 2050. We absolutely love them. People are not familiar with the boat. It's a deep V-hull, very similar to a Lund Pro V, that style of boat. Good multi-species boat, does a lot of things very well. Jake's got one. I've got one. The only difference between them this year is the color.
Well, and you were quite actively involved in the design of that boat too, weren't you?
Well, the boat came on the market in just around 2007, which is about the time that we started television. So, yeah, we did have a little bit to say about it, but it was largely produced before we started. We were able to tweak it after it came out. And it's had several changes in several different evolutions as time's gone on. And I think the boat has gotten better and better and better. And that's kind of the way it has to be in this world. I mean, if you just introduce a product and then never tweak it or change it, pretty soon time will pass you by. So the SDX has seen a variety of improvements over the years. And as far as I'm concerned, it just keeps getting better and better. It's a boat that I'm very proud of.
And what size outboards are you guys running these days? I find it interesting that, because we're Americans and bigger is always better, the size of the outboards we're seeing on fishing boats today.
Absolutely. The first one I had a 200 horse on it. Then we bumped up to the deuce and a quarters. Now we're maxing them out on horsepower at 250. And quite frankly, in some of the fiberglass lines of boats that are out there, you can be going to 350, 400 or more horsepower. So there doesn't seem to be any limit to how many ponies you can put on the back of a fishing boat these days.
The only limit is the dollars in your wallet.
Apparently so. But it really amazes me that, people don't seem to be too concerned about that. And the interesting thing about boat buyers is that largely they're people like you and I in our age group where we've worked hard our whole life. They got a few dollars in the bank, and we're not afraid to spend it to do what we enjoy. And that's what's driving, the outdoor industry, particularly in the marine industry, with boat sales. It's people from 40 to 65 years of age that are buying these boats. Well,
and boat sales right now are through the roof because of, COVID and everything else. But as bad as COVID has been for many parts of the economy, the outdoor industry has actually benefited in large part from this.
And I would have to agree, Mike. I did not necessarily see that coming. When this whole COVID thing happened about a year ago and we were seeing it start to evolve, I was very concerned that it would hurt our industry. Actually, it has benefited our industry. Most manufacturers cannot build their products fast enough. There's a greater demand for product than there has ever been in my lifetime. So talk about the good old days of marine sales. It's right now. This is the best that we've currently ever seen.
I want to go back to the trailer for a minute because I've always felt that a trailer was an overlooked piece of equipment because for the vast majority of us, our boat will spend far more time on a trailer than it ever will in the water. So the choice of that trailer is important.
Well, I think it is, but most consumers don't necessarily think that way. They go to their favorite dealership, they're looking for a boat, they're primarily interested in the boat and the motor, and they don't give a lot of thought to what the boat is actually sitting on, and they just buy the package based on whatever the dealer has put underneath of it. And in many instances, those trailers are lighter duty than what they should possibly be. For example, I like a tandem axle trailer myself, but a lot of boats are put on single axle trailers. And if you have a single axle trailer and you do a lot of trailering like I do, sooner or later you're going to have problems on the highway. You're going to break down. With a tandem axle trailer, if you have one problem with one wheel, you can limp into the dealership and get fixed. If you've got a single axle and you have that problem, you're stuck on the side of the road.
How small a boat would you put a tandem axle under?
I'm going as small as 18-footers.
Okay.
And 19s and 20s, and the multi-species walleye boats these days that are between 20 and 22 foot, all of those command a tandem axle trailer. But even boats as small as 18 foot, And in the state of Michigan, anything under 20 foot doesn't have to have a tandem axle. Anything over 20 foot does. So, in my opinion, even an 18, 19-foot boat, you're further ahead to put a tandem under it.
We're talking with Mark Romanak of Fishing 411, the website fishing411.net, fishing411.net. He's on the road right now, picking up a trailer, getting ready for the springtime fishing season. But Mark fishes year-round. In fact, I've been seeing some real nice pictures of his son Jake, who's been out on Saginaw Bay enjoying the walleye fishery there. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, lots more to talk about with Mark Romanak of Fishing 411, the website fishing411.net, fishing411.net. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, AM and FM, 1240 AM and 100.7 FM. And starting next weekend, you'll be able to hear us back in Flint on Sports Extra, WTRX, 1330 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Great Lakes Charter Training. If you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I am absolutely convinced this is the best way to do it. It's how I got my license, and I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. I needed to have Captain Mel Stackpool and Captain John Littlefield walk me through the classes, they didn't walk me through the test, but they prepared me for the test, and now I have my captain's license. Now, I'm not going to run paid charters or anything like that, but it's nice to have it in my back pocket. So when I do get involved in these charity auctions and such, I can give away trips and feel like I'm legit. If you want to take people on the water for hire, not just fishing charters, but sightseeing excursions, river cruises, whatever, you need to be a licensed captain, and I am convinced Great Lakes Charter Training is the way to go. Check them out online at glctraining.com. That's glctraining.com. One of the big reasons why, even though I have my captain's license, I'm not doing paid charters is I'm just not a good enough fisherman. Nobody enjoys it more than I do, but I'm not on the level of these guys who do it day in and day out, including Mark Romanak. Now, he's not a licensed captain, but he is a professional angler. You've seen him on Fishing 411 television. And Mark, the pressure, the challenge of having that camera with you and having to perform every time you go on the water, I mean, you got to make something out of it, right? Even when the fishing is tough.
You got that right. I back in the day when I was tournament fishing, I had the same kind of pressures applied, and it's very similar. I mean, you want to succeed, and at the end of a day of fishing, when we're trying to film, if it doesn't come together, we just feel like we got kicked in the teeth. I mean, we do take it personal. We work very hard at trying to make those shows successful and make them happen. Fishing, some days it's the fish are cooperative and some days they are not. And I'd like to say every one of our television shows runs smoothly and we shoot them all in one day, but that would be a lie, Mike. It takes a little more effort than that.
Well, when the fishing's slow, it just gives you more chance, more time for you and Jake to become educators and talk about other things, right?
Well, I mean, you got to roll with the punches. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I don't care how good a fisherman you might be. It doesn't always fall in place every single day. In fact, it's quite. I always marvel. You could have two guys in the boat on a good bite, and one guy's catching them, and the other guy isn't. It happens so often, and it's just mind-boggling. Just little tiny things that we might do that we don't even realize we're doing impacts on our fishing success. And someday one guy's got the hot hand, and another day the other guy's got a hot hand, and we see that back and forth with Jake and I all the time.
Well, and what can you attribute that to? Say if you're jigging, is it a slight difference in the presentation, the jigging speed? I mean, what can make that difference?
The differences are often so subtle, Mike, that we can't even discern them. And sometimes, like when you're jigging, if Jake is sticking fish and I'm not, I'll watch his cadence, the way he's moving his rod, and I'll try and duplicate exactly the way he's moving his rod, and sometimes I can pick up on it. But other times, these subtle differences are so minute that you just can't figure them out, and it's a little frustrating sometimes to sit there and watch your kids spank your butt over and over and over again. It just is the way it is, and I'm sure anyone who's ever been in the boat fishing has had that experience where, for whatever reason, you couldn't hit the floor with your hat, and the guy next to you can do no wrong. Some days it's just like that.
Of all the different species you've chased over the years, do you have a favorite?
Well, obviously, I enjoy walleye fishing, probably because I feel I'm the most knowledgeable in that species. Now, certainly, we're pretty knowledgeable about salmon and trout, that type of stuff as well. But when I'm walleye fishing, I feel like I know what's going on. I feel like I have the upper hand. And so it's a control thing. I feel like I'm making the right decisions most of the time when I'm walleye fishing. So day in and day out, that's my go-to. I really enjoy it. I've never felt like I've mastered walleye fishing, but I feel like I have the best handle on how to catch them.
Do we ever master our hunting and fishing adventures?
Well, I never have, to be brutally honest, and I don't know that I ever want to get there. I enjoy the learning process. I enjoy meeting other people who do it differently and then experiencing what they're doing and adding that to my repertoire. So honestly, I don't want to ever feel like I got it all figured out. I want to be in that situation where I'm constantly learning because it makes it interesting and exciting. Never gets boring that way.
You know, you and I have talked a lot in the past, but you used to go up into Ontario a lot. Now, this year, at least for the foreseeable future, you're not going to be able to either. That's going to put a crimp in things, too.
It will. And for us, we'll get by. I'm not worried about what we do. I'm more concerned about our outfitter friends in Canada. COVID is kicking their butt. I mean, they're not getting, I don't know if you realize this or not, but in Canada, those outfitters are not getting any stimulus packages. They're not getting any of those low interest loans. They're getting nothing. They're taking this right on the chin. They're losing 40 to 60% of their business, and there's no business plan to recover that lost income for them. So those people I really feel bad for. When they finally do open the borders, we're being told that it could be as high as 30 or 40% of those outfitters are going to have to go the way of bankruptcy. And that's a sad thing.
It's terrible. If these are family-owned, sometimes multi-generational, hard-working people.
Exactly. And they've grown over the years. We've become very good friends with these people. It's not just that, we go there because they have great fishing or great hunting. We go there because they're great people and they work extremely hard at helping their clients be successful in the field. I have a lot of respect for those people. And this whole COVID thing is really a bad deal for them. And there's just no way to slice it. Any way you look at it, it's bad. And it doesn't look like there's any relief in sight, at least not in the immediate future. Some
of the more interesting stories I've ever heard you tell were your ice out adventures in Ontario for big pike.
That's one of my favorite things to do. And the reason why it's favorite, because we don't get to do it very often. Living here in Michigan, we have pike in virtually every body of water in Michigan, but we don't have monster pike, not those big 40-inch, 20-pound gators that we're trying to target on television. And so the reason I'm so enamored with big pike is because so rarely do we get a chance to do that. You pretty much got to travel into Canada. You pretty much got to be there right at ice out, to be successful. And so it's a rare, unique opportunity. And when we get on those fish, it is a blessing.
What was your most recent fishing adventure? What have you been up to?
Actually, I was in Florida, filmed the crappie show in Florida. And then more recently than that, we were down on Lake St. Clair doing a shoot on Lake St. Clair. As you know, Lake St. Clair's got a great walleye fishery, and we didn't get ice until really, really late this year. So they had a trolling bite there that went right into January.
Wow. Crappies in Florida, that's got my attention.
It was fun. You'd love it. The weather was beautiful. I could dock my boat right there. I walked out of my bungalow, took 2 steps, and I was in my boat. I was fishing with my lifelong friend, Dale Voice from Cadillac. He winters down there now. We absolutely had a riot. We caught a bunch of just slab, huge 12, 13, 14, 15-inch black crappies.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. It's going to make a good TV show.
Dale Voice, who used to be at Boning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dale's retired now, of course, but he hasn't retired from fishing. He pretty much is fishing full time. And like I said, he winters in Florida now. He's in the Astor area, which is near the St. Johns River, and that's a whole chain of waterways in Central Florida that is just unlimited potential for crappie.
I do remember seeing a picture several years ago now, a springtime picture. I think you guys were off Manistee, of a huge brown trout that Dale was holding while he was fishing with you.
Yep. And that's been some years ago now, and I still get reminded of that all the time, because when Dale reeled that fish in, had we ran to the scale and weighed it, it potentially would have been a new state record. But like a bunch of numbnuts, we stayed out there and fished all day, and by the time we weighed that fish, it missed the state record by a little under 4 ounces. Yeah, it's safe to say we blew it.
I'd forgotten about that part of the story.
Well, I haven't forgotten about it, and people remind me constantly, but it wouldn't have lasted long as far as a record, because, as you know, there's been several other big brown trout caught over there. That's that C. forellum strain that just grew to monstrous sizes. So if we did land the record, it would have been broken the next year, and it would have been broken 2 times after that.
So what are your plans for the spring? What trips, what shows, what adventures do you have coming up?
Well, obviously, when it first ice out, there's a couple things that are always on our mind, and brown trout are going to be a big part of that. We want to hit some brown trout places we haven't hit before. We did a nice show in the Upper Peninsula up in the Keweenaw this past year, but we were casting jerk baits. We'd like to go up there and maybe try a trolling show in the Keweenaw. The other place that's on our radar is a place called Rochester, New York, and that's on Lake Ontario. And they've got an unbelievable brown trout fishery there, just some of the best brown trout fishing anywhere. And that's in April, late March, early April thing, so we're looking at possibly doing that. And then in a few days, I leave to go to the White River down in Arkansas, and we're going to chase brown trout down there on the White River for a few days. Yeah. And that's a pretty famous fishery, so I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Did you ever get out to the Columbia walleye fishing?
No, I mean, we were there to fish. Unfortunately, we had bad wind and weather, and the trip got canceled, so we never actually got a chance to fish. Kills me to watch those guys catching those big fish out there. They've got a world-class fishery on their hands, and most people out there don't have a clue how good the fishing is.
Well, or a clue on how to target those fish.
Well, they're learning. They're getting better. They've got a local walleye association out there that puts on their tournaments, and I follow it. I look at the gear that those guys are fishing with. You know, they've got the wireless electric autopilot motors. You know, they got the big outboards. You know, they got the nice glass and deep view walleye boats. So they got the good electronics. So they've come a long way. But they just don't have a long time tradition of catching walleyes like we have here in the Great Lakes. So the growth curve or the learning curve has still got a ways to go.
It is interesting to watch fisheries develop. And I think about Saginaw Bay. You and I have watched that since the early 80s when they put fish back in there. And at the time, you know, people didn't know how to fish them. And now, you know, the local people get better. Tournaments come in, show us how to fish. It's interesting how fisheries and fishermen and women evolve.
You know, that's the perfect analogy, Mike, because, you know, quite frankly, when I started fishing walleyes in the 80s, I didn't know how to catch them either. And I learned by doing and watching other people and studying, watching and reading about it as much as I could, watching how other people are doing it. And that's essentially what's happening out in the Columbia. The guys that are serious about it are catching fish. But it's the same old analogy. I don't know if you agree with this, but I've always believed that, you know, 90% of the fish are caught by 10% of the anglers. And the reason for that is that 10% of those anglers are the ones who are really working at it. They're really refining their craft, and that's why they're so successful.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're in the high percentage, and I'm in the lower percentage. But that's all right. I don't have to do it for a living. I just do it for fun. But I learn from guys like you, Mark, and I always appreciate our conversations.
I do too.
Mark Romanak of Fishing 411, fishing411.net is the website. I have a long history with Mark and nothing but absolute respect for what he's done, what he's accomplished, and what's still coming up yet. And you get in the water with this guy, and it's like an on-the-water seminar. It's a lot of fun, and watch the shows. If you can't go fishing with Mark, watch the shows. They're available online. Fishing411.net. We'll take a break. When we come back, Ian Fitzgerald of MUCC right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us in Sandusky on WMIC 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website. It's MUCC.org. That's MUCC.org. And by the way, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, either your first time signing up or your renewal, if you go to that website, MUCC.org, and use the promo code MIKE, all caps, MIKE, you can save that 25%. How cool is that? Speaking of MUCC, want to check in now with Ian Fitzgerald from MUCC. He is their policy guy, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Ian, welcome back. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
So we had Ashley Ottenreith from the DNR on the show last week talking about the new regulations coming up for the fall of 2021, but I think in some ways they're a little confusing. So why don't we follow up on that a little bit with you, if you don't mind?
Sure, I can do my best to make them less confusing and kind of go over some of them. This last round of deer regulations at the NRC took place over 4 months. Some commissioners came on and then also left. So it's kind of a roller coaster of 4 months. But the biggest change, in my opinion, was the changes to the antlerless deer licenses, which are no longer DMU-specific antlerless deer licenses. They've been replaced with a universal antlerless license that can be used across multiple DMUs. Multiple DMUs, but not all DMUs? Correct, yeah. So there's going to be in the lower peninsula and the south central upper peninsula, that is kind of that open across multiple DMUs. And then the mid-zone of the upper peninsula, there is going to be antlerless licenses, but it must be accompanied with a permit, so that's intended to limit participation where population can be sensitive. And then the northernmost DMUs of the UP are going to be closed to antlerless deer hunting. I feel like, and in fact I've been told, this was an effort to make it easier for hunters and maybe actually help encourage the harvest of antlerless animals. Will it be successful in those areas, do you think? I think so. I think a lot of these changes from the department were in an effort to make things easier. I know when you're reading new rules and regulations, it can seem daunting, but I think over time, year after year, this will be like, why didn't we have this before? When I get a tag for Shiawassee County, it's going to be extremely convenient to go to a different county and not have to buy another tag. And now that might have some implications for the DNR's revenue, but it's easier for the hunter, so we're all for that. You know what? That's a good point. When I read the verbiage of how they're written, I have a hard time following it. So, yeah, it is hard. But I guess once you put it into practice and go through it a couple of years, because even though regulations can be changed from year to year, it's kind of the goal to leave them out there for a few years and see if they get traction, right? Yeah, that is right. Generally, the deer regulation cycle happens, it's supposed to happen every 3 years. What we've seen with CWD and all the challenges with our deer herd, it's been happening, I think, every year. Maybe it's missed 1 year for the last maybe 11 or 12 years, I want to say. So that's usually how it's been going. And I'm sure next year we will be opening the deer regs again because for this year there's going to be voluntary deer registration with the new DNR license system. And I think it's the intent of the department for the 2022 season to actually have mandatory deer registration. So I presume the deer regs will be reopened again. I find that very interesting because for the last several years, a significant percentage of Michigan hunters have been calling for that. I've brought it up several times, and I was told that statistically it's no more accurate than what they were doing in the past. So I don't know what's changed, but I'm kind of glad to see them go in that direction. Yeah, and Michigan has been really good and one of the leaders for survey data that they do, the Deer Hunter Survey. But I think as we have hunter numbers going down, I think the department is realizing having actual data and registration from hunters is going to start being much more important as we lose those hunters. You mentioned Nrc Commissioners. What's going on there? I know there was some political going on back and forth, and some of the commissioners did not get approved. Are they back on, or are they still off the commission? They are still off the commission. Commissioners Baird and Kozad were appointed and served at the January meeting, which they attended, and then they were denied by the Senate. So they have not been reappointed. They could have the opportunity to be reappointed, but we're not sure where the governor's office currently stands there. Well, and, I've talked with Nick about issues like this in the past, and he says, you guys have to be so careful. You got to walk this fine line because regardless of how this shakes out, you've got to work with whoever's in power while they're in power and try to get along with everybody. Absolutely. And I think the approach we've been taking is that a full commission is the best commission. So aside from all the politicking, let's keep natural resources out of it. Let's get back to 7 commissioners, and let's get reengaged.
So right now there are 4. So obviously you can't have 5. So you can't have a tie with 5. So at least it works for a while.
It does work, and they're able to pass, as we saw in the February meeting. They're able to pass deer regulations and other things, but certainly having 7 commissioners and a broad scope of differing opinions helps the process much more.
Ian, always a pleasure. I appreciate your time. Ian Fitzgerald of MUCC, MUCC.org. And again, if you want to save 25% on your MUCC membership, either your initial sign-up or your renewal, if you go to the website MUCC.org, use the promo code Mike, all caps, MIKE, you can save 25%. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery segment, and the questions center around an issue that's not in Michigan, but rather Wisconsin, the Wisconsin wolf hunt that is going on right now as we are recording the show. I want to talk a little bit about how that happened and what the implications, the ramifications could be for a Michigan hunt. Just because Wisconsin is hunting them, does it mean that we automatically will? Well, we'll talk about it more in depth after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by my friends from Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org, securitycu.org. Now, the way the Ask Avery segment works is this is your chance to get directly involved in the content of the show. You can ask me a question directly that you'd like me to answer, or you can pose a question to me that I can hand off to somebody else. This week, the question does not come from any one particular individual, but a whole bunch of people who have sent me questions. And the way to get me the questions, by the way, is to send me an email, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com, or hit me up on any of the social media outlets and tell me it's for the Ask Avery segment. This time around, the questions revolve around the issue of a Wisconsin wolf hunt. And what does that mean for a Michigan wolf hunt? In Wisconsin, the DNRs there said they had about 1,000 animals. Compare that to Michigan, where the DNR says we have about 600 animals. Now, you can argue if that's the case or not, but that's the number they're using. According to the Wisconsin DNR, they have 256 packs of wolves, with about 4 wolves in an average. So that's a family group. They're calling that a pack. Wisconsin had planned to do a November wolf hunt. And, of course, that was made possible when the wolves were delisted at the federal level. The Wisconsin DNR had planned to have a wolf hunt. But a group out of Texas sued the Wisconsin DNR. I think they're called Hunter Nation. They sued the Wisconsin DNR and said, since you are now legally able to have a hunt, we want you to have it immediately. And they got this case in front of a wolf hunt friendly, pro-wolf hunt circuit judge in Wisconsin who agreed with that group, and he had ordered the DNR to immediately have a wolf hunt. So that's how the things happen so fast. Wisconsin set a 200-animal quota. They want 200 animals killed, roughly 50-50 between the tribes and other hunters. It's a little, I think the tribes get like 89, hunters and trappers get the rest. And interestingly, this time in Wisconsin, they did allow this harvest to be open to trappers as well. Now, we didn't do that in Michigan when we had that one very limited wolf hunt. And because of that, in my opinion, that's why we didn't reach the quota. I hope that sincerely, when and if we have a Michigan hunt, that it is indeed open to trappers. There were 27,000 people who applied for the Wisconsin Wolf Hunt, including non-residents. They let out 2,360 licenses, so 27,000 applied, 2,360 licenses were given out, again, for hunters and trappers. As we are in the studio right now, the wolf hunt there is in progress. It's scheduled to end at the end of the month, earlier if they reach their quota. I think this is interesting from a number of perspectives. Number one, because the group came in and sued the DNR and forced everybody's hand so quickly, it didn't give the anti-hunting groups time to really rally against this thing and come up with their formula, their plan, and fight it, which they will do for the proposed November Wisconsin wolf hunt, and which they will do for any proposed Michigan wolf hunt. You can count on it. And that has been the DNR's concern all along. The DNR is not opposed to a Michigan wolf hunt. I've heard this for years. Why doesn't the DNR have a wolf hunt? Well, because for so many years their hands were tied because wolves were protected federally. And the one year that they was lifted, there was a Michigan hunt. But there is great concern here in Michigan and a lot of eyes on this Wisconsin hunt about how the antis will address this and fight this. Now, the antis are a very, very interesting group because they're not just anti-hunting. The hardcore radical ones are anti-hunting, anti-fur, anti-pet, anti-trapping, anti-farm animal, anti-research using animals. I mean, they're anti-everything. And they are extraordinarily well organized and extraordinarily well funded. So they will come back and they will continue to fight this thing in Wisconsin. And when it comes on the radar screen here in Michigan, they will fight it here as well. Please don't fall into the trap that the anti-hunting groups are pro-animal groups, though. Don't let the Humane Society of the United States, HSUS, convince you that they run animal shelters and their goal is to save puppies and kittens, because it's not. HSUS does not run any local animal shelters. If you want to save puppies and kittens, contribute to your local animal shelter. Don't give money to HSUS because it won't go for those areas, to those areas. So Wisconsin's got a hunt. We hope to have a hunt. When it will happen, that's the $64,000+ question. All we can do is keep an eye on it. If you want to send me a question for Ask Avery, send it to me to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And again, thanks to my friends at Security Credit Union for helping to make each week's Ask Avery segment possible. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, a very interesting guy, an icon in the outdoor industry here in Michigan. His name is Jimmy Gretzinger from Michigan Outdoors TV, right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by J Sporting Goods, the Yider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polarcraft Boats, The Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Shadow Hunter Blinds, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Yes, indeed. This is the big guy, Mike Avery, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. So glad to have you along with us as we continue this celebration of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan and occasionally beyond. We talk about hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. All things that are biologically sound, biologically necessary, legal, ordained by God, if you want to go that route, and just plain fun. And our outdoor lifestyle that many of us grew up in, and it's how we define ourselves in a lot of different ways. It's what we think about. When we're not outdoors hunting or fishing, what are we doing? We're thinking about being out hunting or fishing. We're talking with our buddies about hunting or fishing. And if there's one good thing to come out of this pandemic, it is this renewed and increased interest in the outdoors. Now, I hope that when the world gets back to normal, whatever that is going to be, that these people will still maintain their interest and their love in the outdoors, their love for the outdoors. But I grew up hunting and fishing. I grew up on the west side of the state, grew up in a family that, taught me how to hunt and fish, and it's what I've been doing my entire life. And I consider it just an absolute blessing to be able to do what I do for a living. I mean, this is my 40th anniversary in broadcasting, and about 35 of those years have been spent strictly on outdoor things. People say, Avery, when are you going to retire? Well, why would I retire? As long as God allows me to string some words together and get them out of my mouth, I'm not going to retire. But I think, for those people who have been blessed to be able to make a living in the outdoors, we know it. And I know Jimmy Gretzinger does, because I've heard him talk about it before. You know Jimmy from Michigan Outdoors TV. He's continuing this long tradition of Thursday night, right? Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors. I mean, it started with Morton F. And how cool would that be to be able to continue a tradition that started so many years ago and continue it in the manner that Jimmy has? And I thought, you know what? It's about time to get him back on the show and talk about that. And he has graciously agreed to join us once again. Jimmy Gretzinger, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. It's good to hear your voice.
Well, it's always good to hear your voice, but I hear your voice every week anyway, and I see your face on TV every week.
Yeah, I got a face for radio, but they put me on TV.
Well, listen, don't go into radio, okay? Because I don't want you in radio. You got your lane, I got my lane. Let's keep it that way.
Oh, yeah, it's been a crazy year.
Oh, I was thinking about you guys, too. And I always look forward to, as do many people, your big buck nights at the consumer shows. And you just can't do those right now.
Yeah, well, that's a good yes. The short answer is yes. The last year's, we were able to get Outdoorama in before, and then the Ultimate Sports Show got canceled last year. This year, both of those have been already canceled, but we're actually, I might even hear today whether or not the Ultimate Fishing Show is going to happen in Novi. And if they do the Ultimate Fishing Show, then we may tape just do one big buck night. But we're actually just talking with the folks from Showspan in the last couple of days. They're probably going to make an announcement either today or tomorrow, or they might have yesterday. I'm not even sure. But so we're holding out hope. And then if that doesn't happen, then we're kind of going to plan, I don't know, C or D or whatever it would be, and maybe do something later, like this summer, or late summer, early fall, and as we get closer to the season, do it somewhere else, maybe up at Jay's, or I don't know exactly yet. So lots of possibilities, but we'll have a big buck night again. We're just not exactly sure when.
Jay's would be a good choice. So would the Woods and Water weekend, if that's allowed to happen.
Yeah, so we're looking at some different venues, but at the same time trying to, we kind of have partnered with Showspan here for quite a few years doing it together.
Yeah,
so if we can make that work, we'll make that work. If we can't, we can't, and we'll just kind of roll with it and make decisions one day at a time.
I don't want to get too far behind the scenes, too much inside baseball, but the partners that you choose to deal with can play a big role in your success in a small industry like ours.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, you know this as well as anybody that, there's some great people here in the state of Michigan and some great outdoor companies, and we work with some of the same ones that you do. And it's really, without those people to come along beside you and behind you and support you, then, trying to put together a good radio show or a good TV show becomes secondary when you can't, you got to have somebody to help, support you so that you can go out and do those things. And so the partners that we've had over the years have just been phenomenal. And, we don't pump them as much as we should, but they're the reason the show can continue on.
I was thinking, too, I don't remember how many years Mort did the show, but I got to believe you've got a longer run at the helm now than even Mort had, don't you?
Well, that's funny that you say that. I was just talking with Bob Garner about that because he's kind of the linchpin from the current day to the olden times, or however you want to put that. And he thinks that Mort went for about 22 and a half years, somewhere 22 to 20, somewhere in there. And I just finished my 22nd year with the TV show. So I believe sometime this summer, we don't know for sure, but sometime this summer would be where I would pass Mort. And not that that's he as the founder of the whole thing, I mean, he really set the stage and kind of set it in motion. And, it's funny to think about that, so back in the early 50s when he started it was really about pace and variety and the host is not really the main person on the show, and just the little things that we take for granted now. I mean, he was really a visionary and I don't know if he planned it that way or it just kind of worked out, but in fact, he wasn't even supposed to be the host. It was a couple of weeks before they did their first show when the host that they had, something happened and they couldn't do it, so Mort got kind of thrown in there at the last minute to host it and ended up, going for the next 20-some years. So, yeah, getting close to that mark, and Fred Trost was in outdoor television for a long time, with Michigan Outdoors there for a while, and then Practical Sportsman. So, we've had some long legacy of outdoor television, and with you included in that.
Well, listen, not to diminish Mort, because I agree with you. He was the man. He was a visionary, and he is the guy who got this whole thing going. But Jimmy, if you've been doing it as long as Mort did, that's not to be overlooked. That is a tremendous accomplishment.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's hard to believe. I still sometimes am surprised that I have the job that I do, and I keep thinking, well, this will probably be the last year. This will probably be the last year. But, the support stays there. The viewer stays there. I mean, and I think because it's been such a long staple here in the state of Michigan for Thursday night, and even to think about that we have a primetime slot on a Thursday night, at 8 or 8:30 or 9 o'clock, depending on where you are in the state. I mean, I still am just dumbfounded by that. And not that there's anything wrong if we were just on Saturday mornings. That's great as well. But it just surprises me that, and it's really, I think a credit to the viewers because PBS watches those numbers, and if no one's watching, they're not going to have that show on there. So, it's been a real blessing, and each year I'm surprised and thank God every day that I get to do what I get to do, and there's some really cool things that come along as part of that job.
Why is it called Michigan Out of Doors instead of Michigan Outdoors?
Well, so when it first started, it was Michigan Outdoors, and then where that name change came in was when Fred Trost had some of the legal issues with Buckstop Lures. After he lost that lawsuit, he basically went bankrupt and that name became available. And so the Michigan United Conservation Clubs basically purchased that name or acquired that name and owned both names, Michigan Outdoors and Michigan Out of Doors. And so they had a magazine at the time and still do called Michigan Out of Doors. So when they restarted the show a few years later with Bob Garner as the host, that's where the name switch came in from Michigan Outdoors to Michigan Out of Doors. And then Fred kept trying to get that name. So that's when Fred's show became the Practical Sportsman. And then he was kind of suing MUCC to try to get that name back, but they legally owned it, so as long as they used it from time to time. And so they still own both of those names. And when I bought the show from MUCC, I basically purchased a license to use that name as it pertains to television.
Gotcha.
So,
well, whether it's Michigan Out of Doors or Michigan Outdoors, I mean, it's like it's ubiquitous. It is the brand, the outdoor brand here in Michigan. I can't tell you how many times I've heard my radio show referred to as Michigan Outdoors. I mean, it is the brand. So congrats on that.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun, and as you know, it's. You think back through the years, it's all the story. And I meet people all the time like, oh, yeah, we did a story back with, you did a story with me back in 2004 or back in whatever it was. I'm like, oh, yeah. They all just kind of blend together. And, you meet a lot of good people along the way.
You do, Jimmy, and you have been one of them for me. We're talking with Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Out of Doors TV, the website, MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com, MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I want to continue a conversation with Jimmy and just learn a little bit more about him, what it's like to put that TV show together, how many people it takes, how long does it take, what are some of the adventures coming up, and maybe a cliche question, what are some of his favorite memories and favorite adventures from the past? I'm not above asking a cliche question. More with Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Out of Doors TV, MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC AM and FM, 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. And you can hear us in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Wilds Plumbing and Heating. Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, cooling. I've talked about these guys for so many different projects they've done for me. Ductwork cleaning, replacing sump pumps, replacing furnaces, just furnace upkeep, maintenance. They are my go-to company when it comes to keeping the mechanicals of my house running smoothly to keep me warm or cool and dry and comfortable. Wilds are the people that I turn to. I can strongly encourage you to do the same. They have the Avery seal of approval. And a lot of their guys like to hunt and fish too. So if you get somebody to come over to the house and you want to talk a little hunting or fishing, that's allowed. It's okay. Check them out online at wildsplumbingandheating.com. That's wildsplumbingandheating.com. Speaking of talking about hunting and fishing, we're talking right now with Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Out of Doors TV, the website MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com, MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com. And Jimmy, there is an inherent problem in what we do when we're dealing with Mother Nature. For example, if we were dealing with technology subjects, we know that the topic would always be there. It would always be accessible. We could always do a show. When we're dealing with the outdoors and Mother Nature, sometimes things are out of our hands.
I would say they're always out of our hands.
Good point.
There are some stories that we do that we know, if we're doing a taxidermy story or I just did a custom ice rod building story, there's certain ones that those are, kind of a for sure thing. But yeah, a lot of it is, just this past weekend I was at a perch fishing tournament on Poutwater Lake, pretty well attended actually. And had a good group of guys, had all the right gear, everything's ready to go. We didn't catch a perch for 2 or 3 hours, and I thought, well, this is not going to work out as a story. And then we ended up getting one here and then one there, and then you interviewed this ice fisherman over here, and then over to this guy, and you just kind of start piecing something together. So, yeah, in normal TV land, you'd put a script together or an idea and go get those shots. But for outdoor TV, you kind of go and with an open mind and see what you get, and then try to piece something together at the end of it, and hopefully it comes together.
How do you decide what stories to put on the air?
Well, we get a lot of stories from viewers, actually. I'd say it's probably 60% or somewhere in that ballpark is, someone getting all of us saying, well, to example, this ice fishing tournament, I know a guy in Poutwater who was one of the ones putting it together, and he's got a little beer and wine shop there, and he's trying to make a go of that. And he said, hey, would you come up and cover this ice fishing tournament? We've been doing it for years. And I thought, sure, it's fairly close to home, and those ice fishing tournaments are a lot of fun. Usually have a lot of guys at the water, and you can kind of bounce around from shack to shack and get a conversation going with a few folks. And so a lot of times it's people contacting us. Sometimes if there's a season coming up, like obviously, turkey season's not too far away. So as we get closer to turkey season, we'll start putting out some feelers, people that we know that are really big turkey hunters, and we'll get our plan of which tags we're going to get. And so a little bit of both, but a lot of stuff from viewers, and then it's really just driven by what's happening around the state of Michigan. And so, right now we're in the heart of the ice fishing season, and we're kind of probably going to start winding down with that here in the next month. But so we're kind of driven by the seasons, and that's kind of how it works.
Do you get pressure from people who want you to be more political or try to speak out for or against certain issues? Here in the radio format, I have that kind of flexibility, but I'm not sure your format, and it's something I don't see you doing very often, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was like an actual choice that I'm, to really sit down and think through how political I wanted to be. I know when I worked with MUCC as a political force in the Lansing area, then, we were definitely tied more into the politics of the outdoors, and as we should have been, as being part of MUCC. And if you're in Lansing, that's a big deal. Well, the further away you get from Lansing, it was really a breath of fresh air to not be involved in any of the politics. But I do have a lot of people that complain that, you should be more vocal on this topic or that topic. And I guess for me, when I want to watch outdoor television, I want it to remove me from some of the politics of everything that's going on. I want to be immersed in deer camp or turkey camp or fish camp or out on a duck marsh, or I want the excitement of being in the outdoors and with friends and family to be the driving force. Now, that being said, when we're talking deer regulations or baiting or some of the different things, we'll actually, we have to cover some of that stuff. But it's good to talk about that. But I kind of shy away from a lot of the political stuff just because I want my time in the outdoors to not be as political as maybe everything else.
What do you see as your role there at Michigan Outdoors TV when you compare it to, some of the cable shows, some of the national shows? What's your niche, Jimmy?
Our niche is basically being to highlight the state of Michigan. And I came up with this little slogan years ago is I feel like my job is to preserve and promote the outdoor lifestyle. And so to preserve it, you're really focusing on new people getting into the outdoors. And so we do a lot of stuff with kids throughout the year, little kids, older kids, new first-time hunters. That's an important part. And then promoting the idea that there still is a lot of us who love that outdoor lifestyle of hunting and fishing and trapping and the shooting sports and camo and big trucks and shotguns and all the stuff that goes along with that outdoor lifestyle. So, and I think our niche is just the fact that we cover just Michigan, because there's a ton of shows that, are Midwest shows, out West shows, elk season out there or whatever else. But if you want to watch bluegill fishing on Pentwater Lake, well, there's one show that's going to do that, and that's us. And so I think for our niche is to cover the state of Michigan and to let people know what's going on and to try to do it as up to date as we can. We do 52 shows a year, which is, I don't know why in the world we do.
Crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
But there's a Thursday in every week apparently, and so we got to have something ready for that. So it's a challenge, but it's a fun challenge.
Well, and these days, isn't it interesting? I mean, obviously, since the days of Mort Neff, our technology, our tools, our way of telling stories has changed incredibly. But just in the last few years, with the growth of social media, technology, you've got drones and such these days. I mean, the concept of storytelling visually, to me, is more interesting now than it ever has been.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think the outdoors is. Sorry, I just have my son is texting me from school right now. We're having this conversation.
I can relate.
Yeah. So, can you ask me that question again? Sorry.
No, I'm talking about. It was a twofold question, really. I mean, just and you alluded to this earlier. The way Mort would tell a story with a simple wind-up film camera, and the way we tell stories today, plus you've got social media involved now, you've got high-tech things like drones and such. I mean, the ability and the way we tell stories now is so different than it was years ago.
It is. The tools, like you said, have changed a ton. And I remember when I first started with Michigan Outdoors, we had a 20-pound shouldered, camera that had batteries weigh as much as the batteries or as much as the cameras that we have now. So the tools have definitely changed. And like you said, with the drones have given us some really cool perspective on things that we haven't had. The GoPro cameras to get underwater stuff. I mean, the tools have completely changed. But I think the one thing that has remained the same is just trying to tell a good story. And I think at the end of the day, a good storyteller wins. And so whether I've got a $300 little handy cam camera or I've got a $30,000, 4K camera, you can have, one is definitely better than the other. But if someone knows how to tell a story, and can capture that story, then I think that's really at the heart of making it really work, is telling that story. And sometimes it's a how-to, and sometimes it's a story about a grandpa and his grandkids on a little private lake, and there's stories all over the place. And I think the challenge is try to find them and then and try to turn it around quickly, get it out to the viewers, and then turn around and do it again.
Well, you haven't run out of stories yet, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's a never-ending amount, and our state is so vast. I mean, when you think about, from the west end of the UP to the Detroit River, there's a lot of stories left to be told, and a lot of good people out there. And so, it's an exciting challenge.
I've thought about this many times before, and not that I have anything against a state like New Jersey, but I'll use it as an example. If you or I were trying to make a career in the outdoor industry in Jersey, it would have been a whole different struggle than trying to do it here in Michigan, because we've been blessed with so many different opportunities and resources, and people here, it's kind of a natural thing.
It is, and I've only lived in Michigan. I've got a chance to hunt in a lot of different states, but I think, in my estimation, what sets Michigan apart is just the diversity that we have as far as natural resources. I mean, I think we take it for granted that we're just surrounded by water and great rivers, and the amount of state land that we have, and it's just I'm just blown away. And I got a chance to do some stuff in Alaska and Montana and Colorado and North and South Dakota, and they all have really cool things about them. But just the diversity that we have here in the state of Michigan, the distinct seasons, and then all the different fishing and hunting opportunities year round, it's pretty unmatched.
I think everybody knows by now, Jimmy, but where do we find you? How do we see the show?
Well, the best way to see it is on PBS on Thursday nights, and then again on the weekend. And then we do have that on our website, MichiganOutdoors.tv.com. We have full episodes of the show there every week. We also have a YouTube channel, so if you haven't subscribed to that, I would recommend doing that, because then you get an email every time we post the show on there, and really that online portion has been a really cool thing. And obviously our social media pages are a big deal now as well, and really have become a great way for us to interact with viewers. So it's a good way for you to maybe get your story told on Michigan Outdoors.
We will end on that note. Thank you, Jimmy. Always a pleasure. I'll send people to the website, MichiganOutdoorsTV.com. And Jimmy, we've talked about this before, but sometime here, you and I got to get together and do something fun. Maybe a day on Saginaw Bay out on the Angler Quest this summer or something like that.
I was just thinking that would be perfect. I'm going to be actually heading to Saginaw Bay tomorrow for a little walleye fishing. So I'd love to get out there with you this spring or summer. It'd be great.
All right, Jimmy, that sounds good. Keep up the good work. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you.
Jimmy Gretzinger of Michigan Outdoors TV. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We talked about Mort Neff, the guy who actually started this whole concept. I've got a couple of Mort Neff stories that I will tell you after the break. I was blessed to get to spend some time with Mort, and I actually submitted some of my early TV shows to Mort for his critique and his criticism. And he was very gracious with that. So we'll talk about that. And then also, we'll wrap up the show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar and talk about a drive-through wild game dinner at my church, Trinity Monitor Lutheran Church in Bay County. That's all coming up yet this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. You can hear us just down the road in Muskegon on WKBZ, 1090 AM. You can hear us in Newberry on WNBY, 1450 AM. I got a little behind on these. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM, 1380 AM. And in Saginaw, and what we used to call the Tri-Cities, on WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios right now of WSGW. For the 3 hours I'm here, we actually call it the Outdoor Magazine studio. I'm here with Charlie Rood doing a wonderful job, as always. He's doing a wonderful job. Don't let him tell you otherwise, and I do certainly appreciate it. I could not do this show without Charlie Rood and Pat Johnston. Both these guys are very important parts of the Outdoor Magazine team, and I do certainly appreciate it. I told you I wanted to talk a little bit about Mort Neff. If you're younger, you're not going to know who Mort Neff is. But if you're of a certain age, you will immediately recognize the name Mort Neff. Jimmy Gretzinger was talking about Mort as well. He is the guy who started Michigan Outdoors TV many, many years ago. He was an advertising guy in Detroit who just kind of ended up in the right place at the right time as the host of the show. And at one time, he was a more well-known personality than the governor of the state at the time. That's how popular his show was. Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors. I mean, it was just the way it was. That's the way we grew up in Michigan. So I grew up watching Mort Neff on Michigan Outdoors. I had a mentor of mine. His name was Pete Jonas. He worked at WNEM TV5, and he kind of took me under his wing. And that was a good place to be because Pete was kind of a gruff guy. And if he didn't like you, you knew it. But if he liked you, you knew it. He liked me, and I liked Pete. And I found out Pete was a big hunter and angler. That's why we clicked. That's why we bonded. And he had also at one time done some film work for Mort Neff. If you remember the old Mort Neff show, remember the video? No, it was film of the grouse on the log drumming. My buddy, Pete Jonas, shot that film. So so Pete got me connected into the world of outdoor writing, we'll call it. He got me into the Michigan Outdoor Writers Association, of which Mort Neff was a very active member at the time. So the first time I ever met Mort Neff, it was on the snow train in the Ottawa Canyon in Ontario. And if you've been on the snow train, you know how absolutely beautiful it is, but it's a long trip. You've got some time to enjoy yourself. Much of that trip was spent with me sitting next to Mort Neff in a rail car going through the Ottawa Canyon, talking about stuff, talking about outdoor television, talking about how to make the next step, to make the next move, to get better at what I was doing, to grow the business, try to figure things out. And he was very gracious. I mean, he was retired at the time, but it was a legend, not an icon. He was a Michigan outdoor legend. And here I am sitting next to him in the snow train in the Ottawa Canyon, picking his brain, and he let me do it. So I said, Mort, if I send you a couple tapes of my shows, will you take a look at them and tell me what you think? He said, absolutely. He gave me his address, and I sent him off to him. And then I saw him the next time we had a chance to go. Again, it was a Michigan Outdoor Writers Conference, but it actually happened to be on Lake Erie, the Michigan waters of Lake Erie. And we were fishing on the same boat. And we were fishing Erie Dearies that nobody trolled at that time. You threw you threw Erie Dearies. You counted them down with a big gob of nightcrawler on them, right? So you throw the Erie Deary out there, 1,001. If the fish were at 10 feet, 1,001, 1,002. You counted down to 10, you reeled them in. That's how we fished. I guess that doesn't matter to this story. So I asked Mort if he had a chance to take a look at my shows. He said yes. He gave me some pointers. He gave me some tips. And then there was one point at another time I got to see him. I said, Mort, will you do a promo with me? Can I stand next to you, Mort Neff, and talk about this venture I've got coming up? And it was something like, Mort, for so many years, we watched you on Michigan Outdoors TV, and you're a legend, and I thank you for that. And he said on camera to me, Mike, you're doing a great job continuing on this tradition. Everybody's proud of you. Keep up the good work. Oh, man. I got goosebumps right now just thinking about that. I have been a lucky man. I really have. I've been blessed. Wow. I got to find that video. I got to find that. It's around somewhere. And it's not just in one of those old 3/4-inch U-matic tapes in a box somewhere. I think I've actually already digitized that, and I think I've got it somewhere. That's all right. I'm making myself a note. I might have it on a website somewhere. Mort Neff Avery promo. That would be something I want to put online. It just really hit me. I mean, listen, there's not a day that goes by that I don't realize how lucky and fortunate and blessed that I am. But something about that statement right there that just really hit me, that makes me know it. We'll take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, we'll wrap up the show with another great guy. His name is Chef Dave Minar. And he's got one more recipe from a drive-through wild game dinner he's going to have at my church, Trinity Monitor Lutheran, coming up here in just a couple of weeks. That's here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name's Mike Avery. Glad to have you along with us on this weekly adventure we call the Outdoor Magazine radio show. When I look back at the rundown for this week, Jason Vanderbrink, who is the president of CCI, Federal Heavy Shot, Remington, and Speer, a Michigan guy, by the way, my friend Bill Pyles from Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, Mark Romanak, a great Michigan guy, Ian Fitzgerald of MUCC, a great Michigan guy, Jimmy Gretzinger from Michigan Outdoors TV, a great Michigan guy. And then we wrap it up with another great Michigan guy. His name is wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. He's a good friend of mine. He's an outstanding chef, and he's getting ready for an event coming up, a drive-through wild game dinner. David, you got to be getting pumped about that.
I am. I'm telling you what, I've been looking forward to this. A lot of people have asked me and called me about it, and I am geeked, and we're going to do a recipe today that's going to be one of the featured items for your meal.
Oh, let's do that, and then I'll give folks details on how they can get tickets.
Okay, I'll go quick on it so you got more time.
Oh, we got time. Don't worry about it.
We're going to have Cajun wild boar, elk tips and red wine, the walleye New Orleans. We're going to do a Traverse City cherry chicken, and we're going to do a combination of the different wild games like coyote. It'll be the whole meal will be like the coyote and the beaver and the bobcat and muskrat. So this is the elk tips in red wine. So you need, for home use, of course, we're going to make more than this for your dinner. You need about 3 pounds or so of trimmed and cubed venison or elk. You could use 1 cup of medium, small diced onions, about 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. I like to put carrots in it. You cut them on a bias very thin, and it kind of looks real nice. Need about a half a tablespoon of Italian spice and about 8 ounces of a nice dry red wine, whether it would be a Burgundy or a Cabernet or something. Merlot would work too. If you're going to drink Merlot with this dish, by all means cook with it. And you're going to need some base. You can buy that Better Than Bouillon in the grocery store, or you go to like a Gordon's Food Service where you can get the commercially prepared stuff. And 12-ounce package of mushrooms. I like to cut them in quarter. And you're going to grate fresh pepper all over the meat before you're going to brown it. So in a real nice hot, heavy bottom, maybe a 6-quart or so saucepan, spray the pepper all over the meat, the cubes of meat, and brown it off in small batches. You're going to stir it all the time. You're going to have to let the pan warm up somewhat in between batches because it's going to kind of cool the pan down. So when the meat's all done, you can put it in an oven-proof casserole, and in that same pan, you can saute the onions, the garlic, the carrots, the mushrooms, the spice, and saute that up a little bit. Add your red wine, bring that up to a boil, put enough water in it to make the amount of sauce you want to cover this. Or if you're going to make a smaller batch, I would say 2 jars of beef gravy would be great. You could thicken this other way up, if you're going to put water with it, with cornstarch, melt down some cornstarch. And what I like to do is you bake this covered. Once you get the nice consistency you want to bake it covered so it actually kind of helps cook it along. Depending on the age of the animal and all, it might take 2 hours or even more. If you got a nice big old buck or something, you're doing this with 350-degree oven. So that's it. It's simple, and it's great, and I've made this for home in the restaurant for years and years.
Well, it sounds wonderful, and I know people are excited. Again, this is for a drive-through wild game dinner. Since we can't quite get together in person yet, the folks at the Athletic Association at my church, Trinity Monitor, thought this might be a good way to go. So they're having a drive-through dinner on Saturday, March 13th from 3 to 6 in the afternoon. Chef Dave Minar is cooking. But you got to call ahead of time to get tickets. Call 989-662-4891. 989-662-4891. Call between 8 o'clock in the morning and noon on weekdays, because you're actually calling our secretary there. You'll be talking to Lisa probably. And Dave, ticket sales are going very well, but you said that no matter how many tickets we sell, you'll find food for everybody.
Exactly. Yep. We're just going to kind of monitor one another, and we'll let each other know how the sales are going up until about a week before, and that's probably going to be my cutoff about that time.
Sure.
So give me time,
Yep.
I'm an old guy, so it takes a little longer to do.
We're all old guys these days. And listen, I will be there, aside from eating your food, as I always do. I'm going to be one of the people running the meals out from the kitchen out to the vehicles. Now, in my case, it might not be a run. It might be just a fast walk.
Speedy Avery, right?
Speedy Avery.
Hey, Speedy Avery, man, how you doing there?
I've been called Speedy Avery, that's for sure. All right, Dave, we're looking forward to this. 989-662-4891 for tickets, and everybody's excited, and we appreciate your help.
Thank you. Everybody be safe out there.
Thank you. Wild Game Chef Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. By the way, this money goes to the Trinity Monitor Athletic Association. That is a group that supports athletics at our school. We have a wonderful parochial school there, and this group is a big supporter of that. We're also having an auction. I think the auction goes directly to the school. That's coming up soon. I'll give you details on that. Two of the prizes in that, one of them will be a Wraith 270 see-through ground blind from Primal Tree Stands, and the other is a day of fishing on Saginaw Bay with me on the Angler Quest for you and 3 of your friends for the highest bidder. Details on that coming up. You can always check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, and you can send me an email, anything at all on your mind, to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.